right, so this is going to be lesson 10.3, worksheet number 1, answer key. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do on this is just combine like terms. Oh, right off the bat here. All right, so 2 minus 2 is 0. So technically you have 0 root 5, which is just really 0. 0 times anything is 0. Okay, all right, the next problem here. All right, so the 2's can't break down. The 6 breaks down to 2 and 3, but nothing will pair up and move out. Again, you can only combine like square roots, so I can put those together and have 2 plus 2 is 4 root 2. Okay, so again, all I'm doing is adding the outside numbers. And then because of the square root of 6, I'm going to have 2 root 6 because I can't add up the square root of 2 and the square root of 6. Okay, so on number 3, let's go ahead and break this down. Let's see, so 175, I'm going to divide by 5 there, and I got 5 and 35. And then this will break down to 5 and 7. So 5s will pair up and move out. So I have 25 on the outside when I multiply, and I have the square root of 7 left on the inside because this guy didn't have anywhere to go. All right, so on this guy, I'm going to break down to 4 and 7, and then go 2 and 2. So 2's pair up and move out. So 2 times 4 is 8. And then again, I have this 2 left over, so square root of 7. Now, since these square roots are the same, so since they're both square root of 7, I can go ahead and add these up. 25 plus 8 will give me 33 root 7. Okay, on this one, 10s break down to 2 and 5, but nothing will pair up and move out. So I'm just going to go ahead and subtract the outside numbers here. 3 minus 2, and I'm going to get a 1 root 10. Or if you just want to call it root 10, those are the same thing. Okay, on this one, I'm going to go ahead and break this down to 3 and 25, and then this will go to 5 and 5. 5's pair up and move out. Now, there's already a negative on the outside, so it's actually going to now be a negative 5 on the outside. And then I have this 3 left over, so square root of 3. And then I still have minus 3 root 3, since the 3 just doesn't break down. All right, so now combine like terms. So when I put together, I've got negative 5 and negative 3. For negative 8 root 3. Okay, all right, on the next one, okay, these square roots already look good. So negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2 root 3, since I couldn't break down the square root to 3. Number 7, all right, 7's good, so 50. Let's go ahead and break that down to 2 and 25, and then that'll go to 5 and 5. So 5's pair up and move out. So right now I have negative 2 root 7 minus 5 root 2, because I have the 2 left over. All right, and then on 63 here, if I do 7 and 9, and then 9 will break to 3 and 3. So 3's pair up and move out, so I have a negative 15 on the outside, and in this case I have a 7 left over. All right, so now I'm going to put together my square roots of 7. So negative 2 and negative 15 would be negative 17 root 7. And then I have the negative 5 root 2 hanging out there as well. Now, guys, order is not important just as long as you have both parts. Okay? All right, so this one's all square roots of 5. So I'm just going to combine like terms here. So negative 4 minus 5, and then another negative 4 will give me negative 13 root 5. Okay, next one here. All right, square root of 5 is good, so let's go ahead and break down this 20. So it'll go to 4 and 5, and then the 4 will go to 2 and 2. So the 2's are going to pair up and move out. So right now I have negative 2 root 5 minus 2 root 5. All right, and then I'm going to break this guy down. Let's see, I know 3 and 50. 50 would go to 2 and 25. And then your 25 would go to 5 and 5. So the 5's are going to pair up and move out. So 5 times 4 is 20. And then I've got the 3 and 2 left over, so that would be square root of 6. So again, now combine like square roots. So negative 2 and negative 2 would be negative 4 root 5. And then I have the plus 20 root 6 left. And that's going to be my answer. Okay. Next guy here, okay, so 32, we can break down to like 4 and 8. And then the 8, I can break this to 4 times 2. Now, if I want to break down the 4s, you can keep going, but you can also just pair them up and move them out right away and get negative 20 root 2 left because there's 2 left over there. Now the 6 is going to go to 2 and 3, so nothing's going to pair up and move out. So I've got minus 3 root 6. And then on the 24 here, let's see, I got 4 and 6. So 2 and 2 and 2 and 3. So the 2's pair up and move out. So I have a minus 8 root 6 left. Okay, so now again, just combine like square roots. So I'm going to put these two guys together. So negative 3 and negative 8 will be a negative 11 root 6. And then this negative 20 root 2 didn't have anybody to combine with, so he's still just hanging out front. Again, order's not important here, just as long as you got all the parts. Okay? All right, number 11. Okay, this is just a review problem, so let's go ahead and break this down. This would go to 32 and 10. 32 will go to 4 and 8. And then this will go to 4 and 2. So I have a pair of 4s already that I'm going to use. And then this will go to 2 and 5. So now I have a pair of 2s. So now I've got to take 2 times 4 is 8. And then 8 times the negative 5 will be negative 40. Now I have the square root of 5 left over because he didn't have anybody to pair up with and move out. Now the u's, there's only one u here, so there is no pairs. So it's stuck on the inside. The v squared, there are 2 v's. So I pair them up, move them out, and I have 1 v left on the outside. And that's going to be my answer. Okay. All right, so on this one, go ahead and multiply the outside. So we get 25. On the inside, I get 4b to the third. Again, side by side, add up those variables. Now the square root of 4 just goes to 2, right? 2's pair up and move out. So I have a 50 on the outside there. B to the third, I've got 1 pair of b's that moved out, and I have 1 b, this poor guy, left on the inside. And that's going to be my answer there. Okay, number 13. All right, so in this case, the 3's actually just cancel out right away. So really you just have 1 over square root of 2. So let's go ahead and multiply by square root of 2 on top and bottom. And so these will pair up and move out. So I have the square root of 2 on top, and I have just a regular 2 on the bottom. Now, if you want to call that square root of 4 and then call it a 2, that's fine. But this is going to be your answer here. Also, it doesn't matter if you put that 1 out front as well. That's up to you. All right, so on this guy, well, if I look at this, the v's cancel right away because they're both on the inside. So right now I've got 4 root 3 on top and square root of 5 on bottom. So I'm going to multiply by square root of 5 on top and bottom here. So the 5's are going to pair up and move to the outside. So I still have a 5 on the bottom there. Again, if you want to call it the square root of 25 and then call it 5, that's fine. On the top, I'm going to multiply my outside numbers. So I just have a 4, right? Because it's 4 times 1 right here. And then I'm going to multiply my inside numbers. So 3 times 5 is 15. And 15 can't break down and go anywhere. So this is your answer. Okay, next page. All right, so some review here. It says write the slope-intercept form of equation for this line. So remember, slope-intercept would be y equals mx plus b. All right, so my start position will be at negative 2. So there's my b value. And then my slope, kind of have to find a pattern going here, right? And do rise over run. So I rise 1 and I run 5. So my slope here would be 1/5. So now when I write my equation, y equals, your slope is 1/5 x, your start position was at negative 2. And there's your answer. All right, so this one says point slope form. All right, so review point slope. That would be y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Okay, so now you're just plugging in. Remember, this is your x1, y1, and then this would be your slope or your m value. So y minus negative 5 equals, your slope is 3, x minus your x value, which is 1. Now, the only thing I ask you to do on this one is just clean up when you've got a double negative. So call it y plus 5 equals 3, and then x minus 1. Now, you're not combining, or you're not making it to slope intercept. So you're done at this point. All right, so now this one says we got to get it into slope-intercept form. So we will need to get it finished off into y equals mx plus b. So anytime I have 2 coordinate points, the very first thing we've got to do is find our slope. All right, so keep in mind that slope right? Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. So my slope here, and then if you need to label this, go ahead and label X1, Y1, X2, Y2. So I'm just basically subtracting my Y's. So I've got -1 minus -3. And on the bottom there, I've got 1 minus 0. So this will become plus, so I end up with 2 over 1 or 2. Now, it doesn't matter which coordinate point you pick, right? We're going to start in point slope. So I'm going to go ahead and just use this guy. You could use the 1, -1 if you want, though. So I'm going to have y minus my y value of -3 equals my slope, which is 2, and then x minus my x value, which is 0. So now I'm going to make that double negative a positive. We need to distribute because we've got to solve for y here. So I have y plus 3 equals 2x minus 0, and then subtract the 3 over. So y equals 2x minus 3. And there's your slope-intercept form. Okay. All right, so kind of the same thing on the next one here. And the part here that's really important is it's parallel. And so parallel means same slope. Okay, so your slope here is 8. And then remember, we just throw the rest of it out. We don't need the rest of it. So now again, you have a point and a slope. So start in point slope form. So I get y minus my y value is 3. My slope is 8. And then x minus your x value, which is 1. So again, I'm starting in point slope. But the question here is asking me to take it to slope intercept, okay, which remember is y equals mx plus b. So I need to solve for it. So I'm going to go and distribute the 8 through and get y minus 3 equals 8x minus 8. And then I'm going to add the 3 over and get y equals 8x minus 5. And that's your answer there. All right, so solve by taking the square root of each side. So I'm going to start by isolating my variable, right? Isolate your variable by adding the 5 first. So I'm going to add the 5 over and get 6v squared equals 486. Then I'm going to go ahead and divide by 6 and get v squared equals 81. Now I'm going to square root both sides now that I have it isolated. And v will equal plus or minus 9. Don't forget about, we need 2 answers there. So anytime we have a squared, we need 2 answers. So that's where that plus minus comes from. All right, this one says solve using the quadratic formula. So we're going to do x squared plus 12x plus 20 equals 0 first, right? So let's get it set equal to 0. So a will equal 1, b equals 12, and c equals positive 20. All right, so x equals the opposite of b, so negative 12 plus or minus b squared, so 12 squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times 1, or 2 times a. All right, so inside my square root here first, I ended up with 64, so I have x equals negative 12 plus or minus the square root of 64, divide by 2. So now I take the square root of 64 and get 8. So I have x equals negative 12 plus or minus 8, divide by 2. So I'm going to get negative 12 plus 8 divided by 2. So x will equal negative 2 when I do that. And then I'm going to have x equals negative 12 minus 8 divided by 2 and get negative 20. Divide that by 2 and get negative 10. So my answers are negative 2 and negative 10. And that concludes this answer key.